Oh, yeah, she did say. So 29 times 3 is 590, 600.
Senator, just a minute, we'll wait till 7.
70 million.
We do have to record this, so we'll wait a second. Very good, thank you.
All right, good. Good afternoon, Chairman Stinner and other members of the committee. I'm Robert Hilkeman, ROB, ERT, HILK, EMANN from District 4, West Omaha. LB225 would appropriate funds to be determined by the committee to increase the reimbursement rates to the providers of developmental disability services at a rate greater than or equal to a cost of living adjustment. For several years now, my office has been working with the developmental disability service providers and this committee to try and fund the reimbursement rates to a level that allows them to operate comfortably and to provide the best service possible to their clients. DD services are nearly 100% Medicaid funded. There is no private payer option towards which providers can shift their costs, other than any tiny portion of the budgets that some private fundraising event may fill. The only mechanism they have to keep the lights on is our funding. In the previous biennium budget, this committee funded the DD program to match up with the recommendations from a 3-year rate study conducted by the department, which was completed in 2018. However, the department returned millions of dollars to this committee when we began our budgeting process back in January, as you well remember. It doesn't seem that things matched up very well. Also, if we funded the program last year using 2017 rates, as we talked earlier in the day, we're already 3 years behind on inflation, and this year's budget contains no increases in rates. So by the end of this biennium, we'd be 5 years behind the cost of living at best. And just like everyone else, these providers have suffered great financial challenges during COVID. Here are 2 examples of major expenses. Many providers had to dramatically increase their real estate footprint to provide for the social distancing requirements. This was not in their budgets and does not get reimbursed for by the department. Providers have to pay their staff every day, or obviously they won't be able to keep them. When clients were not able to come in for services due to exposure or quarantine or in some instances sickness, there is no service provided, thus no reimbursement for Medicaid. This represents a significant and unplanned loss of revenue by these providers. Please assist me in righting the ship for these providers. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions for you.
Thank you. Questions? I just want to make one statement. I know that you want to appropriate money. Appropriating the money is one thing, giving them the opportunity to spend it. But if the utilization isn't right, then it doesn't go up. Really what we need to do, the methodology, is to increase the rate that is reimbursed for various services that they perform. And because the utilization wasn't where the department thought it was, that's how we got the over-appropriation situation. So that's something we kind of need to rethink as we move forward, just how we go about that. So, Any additional questions? Seeing none, thanks.
Okay.
Proponents.
Good afternoon. Chairman Stinner and members of the Appropriations Committee. My name is Matt Kosick, M-A-T-T-K-A-S-I-K, and I am the Executive Director of Region 5 Services. I'm here to testify in support of LB225. I am new to my position. Some of you may remember my predecessor, Dave Merrill. He held the position for 32 years and is now enjoying a much-deserved retirement. I may be new to my role in its official capacity, but I'm not new to the DD world. My older brother Randy has cerebral palsy. As a result, his mobility is severely limited. Tasks that he does require assistance. These are things that you and I would consider just a basic task. I have firsthand experience on the impact that an organization like Region 5 Services has on a person with disabilities and their family. Region 5 Services provides support for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities in southeast Nebraska. We are the largest provider in Nebraska, serving roughly 800 individuals with disabilities. We have 22 locations with programs in Auburn, Beatrice, Bellevue, Columbus, Crete, David City, Fairbury, Gretna, Hebron, Nebraska City, Seward, Wahoo, York, and 6 programs in Lincoln. Our purpose is to help individuals with disabilities achieve their life goals. The services we provide are wide-ranging and include residential support, community inclusion, vocational training, basically meeting the needs of the individual and helping them be the best they can be. Region 5 Services is a political subdivision governed by a board of 16 county commissioners, as well as a volunteer advisory board. We are one of the original 6 community-based service delivery regions in Nebraska, which were established in 1973. Before these regions existed, the only option for those with disabilities in Nebraska was to live in an institution. Back then, if you had a son or daughter with a disability, you were told to send them to the Beatrice State Home and grieve their loss. When my brother Randy was born in 1965, my parents were told by the family physician that he would be a vegetable. He would never have a normal life, and it would be simply easier if he died. Imagine being a young mother or father and being told this after your first child was born. The good news is that we have evolved. We have learned as a state and as a society. With the help of so many unsatisfied parents of children with a disability, organizations like mine were developed to help bring the services to the community to locations within Nebraska. We learned that community-based services provide meaningful opportunities, respect, and dignity for those with disabilities. We also learned that community-based programs are much more cost-effective than running institutions. Indeed, it is rare that doing the right thing has the lowest price. Regarding funding, that's why I'm here today. The rates that our organization charges for the services we provide are funded by this committee and by the Nebraska legislature. Half of our funding is from the state general fund, and the other half is matched by the federal government. Our rates are determined by a cost-based analysis. An independent group analyzes what it costs to provide the supports that we provide, and then rates are proposed that are intended to allow providers to not lose money. The most recent study on our rates was completed in 2018, over 3 years ago. Costs continue to rise as we struggle to keep up with inflation and the cost of living. The proposed 3% increase in LB225 will help us do both. As a reminder, provider rates were cut drastically in the 2017 legislative session. As a result of this action, providers throughout Nebraska had to make expense cuts and forego basic administrative and maintenance items that any business must do to remain viable. Direct support staff were also affected, seeing reductions in wages and benefits. We are still recovering from the benefits of these cuts, and only just recently were able to correct some of these cuts because of your support in the last session, providing additional dollars in the DD budget. On behalf of Region 5 Services, as well as all the providers that serve Nebraskans in the developmental disability community, thank you for your past support of the individuals we serve. By including the rate increase in the budget as outlined in LB225, we can again get back to where we were 4 years ago. I would also like to thank Senator Hilkeman for your dedication to these Nebraskans and for introducing LB225. And with that, I'm available for questions.
Questions? Seeing none, thank you.
In the famous words of Dandy Don Meredith, we're almost at turn out the lights, the party's over. So we're almost at the end of your day. Senator Stinner, members of the Appropriations Committee. For the record, my name is Alan Zavodny, AlanZavodny, and I'd like to forego the rest of my introduction. And right now, the little voice in your heads are saying, thank goodness. So I appreciate the opportunity to testify before you today on behalf of the Nebraska Association of Service Providers. NASP provides supports for thousands of people that experience intellectual disabilities in Nebraska. NASP is engaged in providing supports that include employment, residential settings, and many other rehabilitation supports on behalf of the state of Nebraska. We extend our gratitude to Senator Hilkeman for introducing LB225. Government at its best provides for crucial infrastructure, regulation, and oversight to keep citizens safe and provides for its most vulnerable citizens. I'm going to focus on the most important aspect of the continuing investment of the state of Nebraska to its providers. It is staffing, period. In the most simple form, providers recruit, hire, train, and schedule staff to provide direct supports to people with intellectual disabilities. These functions are at the core of the responsibilities of the members of NASP. Nebraska has one of the lowest unemployment numbers in the nation. The competition for this limited pool of workers is stressful and proving to be very difficult in the current environment. The North Star Services starting wage of $13.25 an hour is $27,560 a year. The federal poverty income guidelines puts the poverty level for a family of 4 at $26,200. Thus, an employee of ours with a spouse and 2 children would be the living definition of the working poor. In closing, we are here today to encourage the Appropriations Committee to include funding for providers in their budget recommendation for the full legislature. We again thank the committee and Senator Hilkeman for their support in the past and for consideration of a clearly defined ongoing need. We believe LB225 is a mechanism to accomplish that, but we would obviously prefer the seamless inclusion of provider rates in the appropriations budget, notwithstanding exclusion of it by the executive branch and the department. On behalf of NASP and its membership, please accept my sincere thanks for the opportunity to appear before you today and to state our case. Our circumstances remain consistent. The small bump in provider rates that we're asking you to consider buys your developmental disability system much needed time. With that,
Thank
I've
you.
answered
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. Afternoon.
Hello. My name is Debbie Herbel, Debbiehebel, and I live in Omaha. I'm the executive director of Duet, which was formerly Encore. Duet is one of the largest programs providing services to people with developmental disabilities in Nebraska. We serve 650 people with disabilities and employ 620 employees. Duet recently celebrated its 50th year of providing services. I'm pleased to provide my testimony in support of LB225, which would appropriate funds to the Department of Health and Human Services, specifically the allocation for rates paid to providers of developmental disability services as determined by their rate study completed in 2018. I have 30 years of experience working with the state of Nebraska and providers of developmental services. As the cost of living increases and as there are more state mandates, Duet is struggling to pay our employees a livable wage and to afford health insurance and benefits for our workers. In the past 5 years, we have had to increase employees and invest in technology to be able to comply with state mandates, such as those requiring electronic data keeping. Although these mandates were needed, it comes with a cost. Duet oversees 620 employees in 90 group homes and 15 different day locations. The rates we are reimbursed does not keep up with the economic impact we have experienced as a result of the mandates and the increased cost and expenses such as annual background checks, increased cost of our insurance premiums such as workmen's compensation and health insurance. When thinking of the services we provide, many forget that although our foremost concern is providing people with disabilities a quality of life and the staffing support that they need, we are also running a business. We have had to add positions to be able to keep up with the complex billing of services, the management of the required technology infrastructure, and the quality assurance positions to keep up with the multiple entities that the state requires we answer to. Duet is nonprofit. All of the money we receive goes back into the delivery of services. We serve a wide variety of needs, including 2 group homes that work with people with complex needs requiring 24/7 nursing care. Without our agency, many people we support would live their lives in a nursing home. It is vital to the people we support who have a disability that we be able to hire quality employees to work with them. Our agency's goal is to never turn down anyone that is needing services. However, if we cannot keep up with employee demand because our wages are not competitive, many people with disabilities will be left with no service because of the difficulty in hiring employees to do the difficult work at the rates that we're able to pay. The proposed bill you are considering today will have a tremendous impact on the people we support. I appreciate the sponsors of the bill and thank you for allowing me to testify.
Thank you. Questions? Senator Erdman.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
What kind of budget do you have to serve 650 people?
Our budget is $36 million, and $33 million of that comes from the state. We are also funded some by the counties, being we were an old region program.
Thank you.
Questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any additional proponents? I do have submitted written testimony from Brennan Miller on behalf of Ollie Webb Center, Amber Bogle again on behalf of the Children and Family Coalition of Nebraska. We have letters of support from Mosaic and KVC Nebraska. Last call for proponents, opponents. Seeing none, anyone in the neutral capacity? Seeing none, Senator, would you like to close?
I'm going to close by telling a little story of why I'm carrying this bill. Most of you don't know, but I had an Aunt Kathleen, who was a Kelly. She spent 25 years at Beatrice State Home. She finally got out of the home. She lived over here in these Francine apartments worked over at the University of Nebraska, lived a very fruitful life independently for a good portion of her life. And at those times, they didn't have the services that we had provided now. As my life as a podiatrist, I worked with all the Mosaic patients that they used to bring in me. These were the finest people. I used to say, if everybody had the work ethic of these people that worked at Mosaic, America would never have to worry about being great. We would have been the greatest, the work ethic and their desire to get back to work. If you'd have to do a little procedure on, one guy go back to work, one guy go back to work. As a podiatrist, I took Medicaid patients. And as I was sharing with Senator Clements and Erdman, the reimbursement rates were awfully low. But I had Blue Cross and Blue Shield. I had United Healthcare. I had Principal that paid a little bit more and you could provide those services. There are some providers in my profession that will not take Medicaid patients because of the load. That's not the case for the disability providers. They have to provide this service and we need to depend upon it. And if we don't have these providers out there, who's going to take care of the Kellys and the Kathleen's? That I'll close mine. Any other questions?
Questions? Seeing none, thank you. And that concludes our hearing on LB 225 and also concludes our hearings for today.